Okay, let's do a review, cross comparison between the Nikon D500 and the Fuji X-T2. Now, I was not in time to get the vertical grip. I've tested the pre-production model with a vertical grip. I know the advantages that I will get, and my vertical grip is on the way. I can still do a complete and full review, and the videos on the X-T2 are going to pour like rain. Comparison between two. Everybody keeps asking me, well, D500 or Fuji X-T2, which would you pick if you only had one? That is a really tough choice. We have to look logically at what it is, A, that your type of shooting is, and B, not so much the budget. Obviously, if you have a heavy investment in Nikon glass already or a heavy investment in Fuji glass, then that certainly is a deciding factor in things. Looking at it logically, are you sports, action, wildlife photographer? What are you? The one arena that stands out on the Nikon D500 is crazy high ISO performance. I mean, I knew that even before I tested the pre-production. This is not a pre-production Fuji X-T2. This is a production model Fuji X-T2. And I was able to confirm with some big wigs that are hooked up with Fuji, because I tested firmware version 1.3.5 and I knew the last pre-production firmware was 1.4.2, and I got confirmed because I contacted the person. I said, listen, this is the first production X-T2 and it's rocking body version 1.00, and it is exactly what I thought, is that the production model, they crank the firmware just to indicate 1.00 as like a clean slate number for the production model. So the pre-production firmware numbering was one thing and the production firmware was another thing, and that's exactly what I figured it would be, but I got confirmation on that fact. Now, as far as the Nikon D500 and Fuji X-T2, Fuji has been making a lot of glass for a long time. Now, it certainly is the case that with the Fuji you do not have what you have with the Nikon as far as large glass, 400mm, 300mm, 500, 600, the wide, enormous variety of manual focus and D-series autofocus screw dive lenses that have been available for decades and decades, which are extremely abundant and very cheap. However, it is the case with a $12 adapter, and the fact that focus peaking is absolutely exquisite on the X-T2. And the X-T2, by the way, is a game changer. It is more of a game changer than I thought. I don't feed people hype on cameras like, oh, you're just praising a new toy, it's something new and shiny. There are people that actually do that. There's actually a lot of people that do this. Like, oh, it could be a horrible camera. Like recently, the Canon fanboys have been attacking me on the 5D Mark IV, which has nasty pictures and abysmal specs, and I'm certainly no hater of Canon at all, but these people say, oh, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's that sort of fanboydom stuff. I don't play that game. When I actually say that the X-T2 is a game changer, you better believe me, I actually mean that. When the Nikon D500 rolled out, I was the first person doing reviews on it, and I spilled out a lot of reviews fast. So much so that I found out that Nikon sent a letter to all its representatives worldwide. It's like, oh, listen to this guy. He hates everything, and he says the Nikon D500 is the best thing since sliced bread. And I meant it. D500 is a legend. Even the people that can't stand me, they're like, yeah, I agree with him. The D500 is just like game-changing. It's just epic. It's unbelievable. The X-T2 is basically Fuji's version of the D500. Not meaning that it's a comparison. I mean, it is that sort of game changer. Now, here's the important point that I mentioned in another video. Okay, now, I got a lot of flack when I used the pre-production Fuji X-T2, and I told people, I said, listen, this camera is smoking ass and lighting fires and kicking butt and autofocus tracking on fast-moving subjects. Meow. And they said, no, you're full of crap. There is just no damn way that this camera has faster autofocus tracking than the Nikon D500. I said, oh, yes, baby, honey girl, girlfriend, it does. No, it's not possible. And the reason that they thought that is because the X-T1, as we all know, is pretty slow. It's like a constipated turtle. I love the X-T1, it's really well made, but you try to do any continuous autofocus tracking with it, or just, like even a little toddler, hoofing along at 2 miles an hour. The X-T1's got a problem with it. People thought, well, the X-T2 is going to be a step up from that. But the X-T2 is not a step up from the X-T1. The X-T2 skipped that step and another step. It went from the X-T1, where the autofocus was, oh my god, to the X-T2, where the autofocus tracking, and I've proved this over and over. I've been kicking this camera in the ass non-stop, hardcore. And the X-T2 is like, oh my god, that's not possible. The autofocus is that damn good, okay? I don't play any fanboy crap here. No fanboy crap. When my Nikon D500 locked up, I was the first person to make a video on it. When this camera locked up 3 times, I recorded and filmed and posted videos of 2 lockups on this camera, but not the 3rd one. But that was not my fault, really, because Fuji and other people said, hey, you can use the X-T1 battery, but no, that's not the case. I've already made the video about that. If you're thinking about just using the camera only, now you can use the X-T1 batteries in the vertical grip, but you don't use it in the X-T2 and try to do burst mode. The power profile is different. The camera will seize up like that. No, you use the battery that it came with, but I didn't use it, the one that it came with, because it was mostly depleted. It was a new camera, and new camera with a basically drained battery. So I was charging it, and I was using the X-T1. So those are the reasons for the lockups. So that is not really all my fault, and some of the fault lay on Fuji, because basically all these people out there said, yeah, sure, you could use an X-T1 battery in the X-T2. Yes, you can, but no, you can't. Back to the important points. The viewfinder. The viewfinder on the X-T1 alone is orgasmic compared to DSLR. I don't care if it's Canon, I don't care if it's Sony or Nikon, toilet paper tube, right? X-T1 viewfinder, wow, great, orgasmic. X-T2 viewfinders, oh my god, that's not possible. It is literally that drastic. You go back and forth between the X-T1 and X-T2. The electronic viewfinder in the X-T2 is a lot brighter, and it is incredible. I absolutely love the fact. Now, thank God. You see, the play button up here on a Fuji's up here. And when I actually am doing some shooting and I want to preview a shot, I don't want to do this number. Okay? It's like, you think that's a lot? It's like, well, that's nothing. It is. It is actually a lot. This number. Okay, take a shot. I got to do this. I got to do that. No, my finger's already here. I've programmed that now to play, so I don't have to move anything. My hand stays the same. I can hit the preview button, then I can hit the shutter release button halfway and go back to shooting. That is a big-ass deal. There's a bunch of little stuff like that that adds up to a big deal on the Fuji X-T2. A lot. The JPEGs are better than anybody else's JPEGs. I don't give a damn what anybody says. Most people agree with me on this. It's like Fuji JPEGs are the tits. And they are. They're just the absolute tits. So the question remains. We have the advantage of the insane high ISO performance on the Nikon D500. And I knew the Fuji was not going to beat that. I mean, this sucker rocks out to make a really nice 8x10 at 40,000 ISO. But that's not exposure, that's applied gain, and those are SNR firmware algorithms and processing. A camera is not a sensor, it's an image processor, okay? That, you have the huge glass. So if you're going to be doing wildlife photography, the Fuji does have the telephoto, and it does have a 50 to 140, basically their version of a 70 to 200 to 2.8. It's not going to be a replacement for the huge-ass 500mm. So, what sort of shooting are you doing? The X-T2 is a game changer. Now this thing, it's rocking fast for sports and action. I mean, you're talking about like very, very damn few missers. Like really, even less than the D500. If I were to like take both of these to the Olympics, and I cloned myself, and I was using the D500, and my other clone was using the X-T2, I know for an absolute fact, after a lot of testing, that there'd be fewer misses on the X-T2 than on the D500, and that is like, what the hell? That's impossible, but it's true. It is absolutely true. One thing that really shocked me on testing this production, Fuji X-T2, and I did a lot of testing, low light autofocus acquisition. Both in multi and single mode, like where I can't see it, it's like, what the hell is out there? I can't see it. The Fuji X-T2 performed as good as the Nikon D500 in 100% of the situations, and in a few situations a wee bit better. And that was a real shocker. I was not expecting that to happen because when I had access to the pre-production Fuji X-T2, I did not really get to do hardly any of that testing for low light. And definitely not back and forth between the D500 and the Fuji X-T2. So that is, bueno. That is, as the Russians would say, очень хорошо. The X-T2 is a game changer. My vertical grip is on the way. You know, obviously the capabilities of the Fuji X-T2 is split up between it and the vertical grip, but the Fuji X-T2, not the lens, just Fuji X-T2 and the vertical grip, $2,000 basically with tax. Okay, $2,000. D500 alone without its vertical grip, $2,000. So both of these cameras are the same price. X-T2 with the vertical grip is $2,000. The D500 all by itself without its vertical grip is $2,000. 20 megapixels, 24 megapixels. What's the difference? Insane high ISO performance. Am I going to get, you know, my D500s are not going to go anywhere. The D500 is incredible. We can obviously see the difference in size. However, I don't have the vertical grip on the X-T2 now. Who would I recommend the Fuji X-T2 to? And really the answer is just about everybody. Now, there's no perfect camera that is absolute perfect. You know, like, what's going to beat the D500? D500 is king of sports, action, wildlife, and low light. Low light. I almost said low life, right? Nikon D810 is king of landscape and portraiture. The Fuji X-T2 is a game changer. It's a game changer for mirrorless, and forget about mirrorless versus DSLR crap. I did just to hell with that. The camera's a game changer. You know, there's something on the side here that Sony does not have. I see 2 UHS-2 card slots. Sony does not have that. No. So the 4K video out of the Fuji X-T2. I'm not a video person, but I know quality when I see it, and it ain't overheating either. You know, there's not like, oh, it's overheating. No, wait a minute, it's a Fuji, it's not a Sony. Yeah, we don't have that problem here. The ergonomics, the quality of construction, made in Japan, all magnesium chassis. Made in Malaysia, or Thailand, I didn't see Thailand. A little bit of magnesium, mostly carbon fiber. Not that that's really any big deal. This is basically like a miniature version of a Nikon D3. It's just tougher than woodpecker lips. This is an underpriced camera. For what it is, it's $1,600, or you add the vertical grip. Since all the potential of this camera, you know, you don't get 30 minutes of video until you add the vertical grip. You don't get the boost mode without the vertical grip. Screw it. Okay, add the vertical grip. It's $2,000. It's an underpriced camera. Fuji is going to sell the dog piss out of this camera. Okay? I was 100% right when I started to make all the videos on the D500. I was 1,000% correct. I made a lot of people like, oh my God, stop making Nikon D500 videos. I said it's going to be a legend, and everybody's yakking about the bird shooters, the action shooters. Everybody's just loving the D500. Even Joe McNally's out there rocking the D500, okay? D500 is something that Nikon can really hang its wreaths around its neck over. And that is the exact same situation here for the Fuji X-T2. So which can I recommend over the other? You know, if you're a wildlife shooter and you need a long, fast glass, it does not exist with Fuji. It does with Nikon, okay? Other than that, I mean, I would recommend this to any wedding photographer, yes. Photojournalist, abso-friggin-lutely. Sports action, absolutely. What is this camera? There's no camera that is best at everything, just flat out. What is this camera not best at? Wildlife, you know, you're not going to throw a 300mm 2.8 prime on it, okay? You're just not. Let's just face it, okay? Big deal. The Nikon D810 is an awesome camera too. It's not meant for sports and action, you know, and that's just the way it is. There's never going to be a perfect camera that's going to say you're perfect in every field. Is the Fuji X-T2 perfect? No, but it's a game changer, and it's going to be a trailblazer for Fuji. The X-T1 was a trailblazer for Fuji. But everybody that loved the hell out of Fuji, they're still like, we love the X-T1, but the autofocus kind of sucks. Well, you don't have that worry anymore, honey baby, with the X-T2. You don't. I give it a 10 out of 10. What? You gave it a 10 out of 10? You can't find any fault with it? No, I really can't. And I'm the first person to pick something apart, okay? I really am. Now, the three seizures of this camera where it would not turn, that was an issue of the fact that I popped an X-T1 battery in here. That's not a fault of the camera. That is actually bad information that was fed to me by everybody. It's like, yeah, sure you could use X-T1 batteries in this camera. And the truth is that you can, kind of, but if you're going to do burst photography, no. So that's not a fault of the camera. So if someone says, well, your camera locked up a couple times and you posted the video, so what? That was the battery. That wasn't the camera and its native battery. That was not an issue there. So I can actually find no fault with this camera. There's a lot of improvements. And it's underpriced for what it is. It is underpriced. And the viewfinder, like I said, the viewfinder was orgasmic on the X-T1 and on the X-T2. It's just, Maria Patria Filii Spiritus Sancti, oh man. Yeah. It's like, you're looking at the face of God when you looked at the X-T2 viewfinder. It sounds a bit hyperbolic, but it's actually very accurate. Trust me, it is very accurate. So, recommend it highly. And those are the differences between the Nikon D500 and the Fuji X-T2. No camera is perfect, but this camera is underpriced. It's going to be a game changer, and Fuji is going to sell the piss fire out of it. Okay? Thanks for watching. Like this video and drop me a buck or two. Tell me to jump off a cliff. Or better still, you can always order me a pizza, because there's nothing that fat guys like better than pizza. Bye.